The first thing that I want to talk about is how you rehearse. How do you rehearse before you start your day or after you end your day to prepare you for the next day? And what I've seen, especially in new agent role plays, is people who, when they rehearse, they do it like this. All right, so hi, Dana, this is just Bob. I'm calling from blah, blah, blah. Okay, and where was it you inquired in the first place? And you read it like that, like 10 times. Oh yeah, I read the script 10 times. I got it. But when you actually rehearse, you have to rehearse it as if you were on the phone with a customer. You cannot just read the script and mumble it to yourself. Because would you do that when you're on the phone with a client? No, we would not do that on the phone with a client. So when you are rehearsing, the rule of thumb that I've always lived by is for every hour, like, so I would consider our presentation from start to finish about an hour. For every hour of content that you have, you should be practicing out loud 100 times. And it doesn't have to be 100 times in one sitting, but it should be, okay, I'm going to do this 5 times out loud, and it's not going to take you a full hour to go through it. But before I got on the phones, I would tape the script to the outside of my shower. And I would literally practice the script out loud. And my kids would walk by, are you saying that stupid script again? Or when I was making them their breakfast in the morning, I would have it in front of me. Like, I was so determined and so obsessed to not sound scripted, right? To master the craft of this NEPQ sales script after I wrote it, that there was nothing else I was going to do until I mastered it. And so if you have the desire to get the results of 5,000 a week, 8,000 a week, 10,000 a week, 20,000 a week, you have to have that obsession. That it just has to be there. It's hard to create that, but just like anything, in order to create a habit, once you start doing it over and over and over again, you're going to see the confidence that builds inside of you when you get on the phones. Oh, I got this. I've been here before. I've said this 100 times. And you should get to the point where you've released yourself from doing this, but not deviating to the point where you've made it so much of your own that you've completely lost sight of what the script is trying to do. So if I'm on the phone with a customer and you were to listen to me, I'm still literally verbatim to the script, but you would never know that I was ever following a script, right? That is the goal. And when you start, what I typically see with new agents, they'll come in, good ones will come in and have immediate success. They'll shoot up like this, the ones that are really following everything and they have the good tonality and they have the effort and they're doing everything right. And then they get a few sales and then they start to taper down. And when we start listening to those calls, we start realizing, oh, you got really comfortable and you skipped this, you skipped that, you started deviating here, you asked this way too early. So I want to encourage you to always remember that the script is written in a way that is designed for the customers to give you the answers that you need in order to understand how to help them. Okay, does that make sense for everyone? Part of rehearsing, part of why it's so important to rehearse is it will automatically remove what's called non-words. The ands, it's the so, yeah, you know, like, so, right? And that doing that when you're not rehearsed, it will decrease the clarity of your message. It will make you sound like less of an authority. It will make you seem like you're unsure about what you're actually talking about. And the ums and the and you knows and the likes and the it makes you sound like you are not the expert. So when you guys start booking your one-on-ones, one of the things that I listen for are the non-words. How many of those do you have? And is that making the value of your conversation diminish? Because you're so focused on trying to figure out what you want to say next, that you're filling that gap, you're filling that space with the ums and the you knows and the likes, right? So that's part of what practicing is really going to get you to do, especially for those of you that feel uncomfortable in the pausing. Pausing is super powerful, super, super powerful. If you don't know what to say next, and just pause. Pause and find your place. Maybe give some breathing room for your customer to engage back. You don't always have to ask a question for the customer to engage in the conversation with you. You can just pause. Find where you want to go next, and then continue on your way to asking questions. There's a lot of ums and ahs and uncertainty in our conversations when we're new. Another really good exercise to do when you listen back is listen. If you video yourself when you present too, right? Even though we're not on video, I use hand gestures when I'm presenting on the phone. I change my facial structures when I'm on the phone. When I'm curious, I tend to lean in and lower my tone of my voice. So if you were to film yourself presenting and then you rewatched it back, but first with the camera off and you only listen to the audio, right? And you just count all of the non-words. The next day you go back and you turn the audio off and you just watch yourself present. Even though you're not face to face with someone, it doesn't matter. You can tell when you're watching me how passionate I am about something. If my audio was off right now, does it look like I'm talking to you about information and just wanting you to say, don't say ums, ahs? No. That prepares you to actually get on the phones with people and have those powerful conversations. It's not this, right? It's not the words on the script. It's not the game. It's the work that you have to put in before the game starts to prepare you to deliver the message that you're about to deliver. You have to imagine that your script is your keynote for a TED Talk that you're about to give. That is how it has to be delivered. You have to inspire people to make a decision, which will transition us into the next topic, which is the number one most important sales skill that you must master. Does anyone know what it is? Tonality is the end all be all of whether you're going to put someone to sleep, whether they're going to tune you out and just ask you to get to the point and get to the price, or whether they are going to be hanging on to every last word you're going to say until you get them to the end. And they are literally thanking you for everything you've done for them today. It's also important to not just master this to get the sale, but it's also important to make sure we master this to what? Not just to get the sale, but to
keep it on the books.
To keep it on the books. Telesales has a lower persistency score than face-to-face sales. It just does. Our goal is for us to be at an 80% persistency. That's our goal. So that means that 20% of your business will cancel. Guaranteed. And the best way for that business to stay on the books when we are talking to someone about the benefits of what this policy can provide is using our tonality to give them a feeling that they can remember. Tonality, it's very, very difficult to teach tonality in a group setting because listening to your calls is going to help me listen to how you say something, pause it, and then say, you should have probably said it like this. Now you say it back to me like this. So I encourage everybody, after you have conversations, to continue to book those one-on-ones so we can continue to improve it. So part of tonality, mistakes people make, is talking too softly without positive or negative inflection in your voice and being very monotone. That's the number one thing that I hear when people get objections of, can you just get on with it? I just want to know what the price is. Because you're not speaking in a way that's inspiring the person to want to hear what you have to say. So if I were to just talk about the information that we're going over like this the whole time, and I never had any positive or negative inflection in my voice, and I always just sounded like this, would you want to stay on this call for the next 60 minutes, or would that be super boring? Asking questions when we're in discovery in a not a curious tone, just asking them to ask them because it's on your script, and then getting to education and using the same tone, and then getting to problem awareness, which is we're about to uncover problems that people didn't know they had, and we're still in the same tone. And the whole time your customer is going like this. Okay, oh, I'm sorry, what's the price? So the reason that people aren't closing at a higher rate, or they're not even able to engage people in a conversation at all, is because you are not interested. You're putting people to sleep when you're talking too softly and without any sort of positive and negative inflection in your tone when it's appropriate. Your script is the word I'm looking for. And look, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, so I'm filling it with ums and ahs, and that's what happens when you're not prepared, right? It's like you're an actor. That's what Jeremy Miner always says. You're an actor. If it doesn't feel natural to you, that doesn't matter. You cannot take your same personality, if it doesn't come natural for you, and insert it into sales. You have to find the character. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to find the character and pretend you are somebody else if you want to master this sales process. These people are so lucky to be on the phone with you. You have the information that they need in order to make a life-changing decision. So it's never about, I'm so sorry, it's just going to take another 5 or 10 minutes because I have to tell you the features and benefits. That's what they hear when you apologize for taking up their time. That also devalues the information you're about to say. You have to understand that what we can do for families is life-changing for 90% of the people that are calling in. People don't get final expense insurance if they've done a good job at providing a financially secure environment for their family when they pass away. Final expense insurance is expensive. And the reason that people need it is because they're desperate and it's their last choice, and they have nothing to leave behind, and their family doesn't have the money either. This is a big deal. And a lot of times where I live, and maybe where you guys live, I don't see a lot of that. I live in a really nice suburban community where no one's ever going to need final expense insurance. So you have to put yourself in the mindset of your buyer and how tragic it is that they're leaving their family in a position of nothing, and that you have the opportunity to put them in a better position than they were when they got on the phone with you. That is how passionate you have to be. To be successful in selling final expense, you have to live and breathe it, especially in the beginning when you're learning. Because it's very easy to get beat up and it's very easy to want to quit. And if you're not on your game when you get those opportunities and you get no after no after no, and then you get all the bad leads that you can't even present to, it's going to feel insurmountable. Like you cannot make another call. And then you start getting lead fatigue and you start judging your future leads by the leads you got before. But if you're actually able to convert the ones that you do get that are interested, where you can have an opportunity to change their life, the rest of the bad leads aren't going to matter to you anymore, right? My platform is 30 days to learn, 60 days to build, 90 days to collect. Someone dissect that for me. Why do I say 30 days to learn, 60 days to build, 90 days to collect? What does that mean to you? To increase your opportunity. So when I first started, my goal was one deal a day. One deal a day. That's all I wanted to do. And over time, it took me probably until my second month to where I was doing 2 deals a day and then 3 deals a day. And then in my third month, I was top 5 in the country. But I was not like that in my first 30 days. So you also have to give yourself permission to fail and the space to learn. And you may not make a ton of money your first few weeks. Putting all that pressure on yourself will end up causing you guys to want to quit. That's why I asked in the beginning, has anyone been in a call center environment before? Because it takes that time to learn the system, learn the script, have conversations so we can analyze your calls. Now that you know the script, now you have to work on your tonality. You have to sound curious sometimes. You have to be a leader and educate people sometimes. You have to be passionate about where is that going to leave your family if it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get paid. And then pause, let them respond, let them engage, waiting for your turn to speak. That is what listening is not, waiting for your turn to speak. When you're in discovery and you ask a question and then you get an answer, and if every single time your response is your next question, you are doing something wrong. And I mean your next question on the script. The answers that you get from people are your opportunity to mine for gold. They will always start with surface answers. Why? What caused you to inquire? I'm just getting older. And I was on a one-on-one with someone on this coaching session right now, where we ended up finding out a couple questions later that it was this person had now seen people pass away. They saw the impact that it was having on the ones left behind, not just financially, but emotionally. And that information was received. And then we just moved on to our next question on the script. So the things that I do when I listen is I listen for those golden nuggets. I listen for even the smallest things. When I listen to your calls, I can tell in the first 5 minutes of your conversation, I already know how to sell them. I already know exactly where I'm going to go and where this conversation and how this conversation is going to end, because I've listened very closely to every word that they're saying. And I think to myself for a millisecond, am I happy with that answer that I just got? Do I understand what they just said, or am I uncomfortable and I don't understand what they said? So instead of asking them to clarify that, I'm just going to move on to the next question on my script, because that's where I feel safe. So if you fail to clarify things that people give to you also, that's also going to make your presentation weaker. The less you understand, the less you're going to know how to help someone and how to use that information and draw it back into your script. Because education and problem awareness is most powerful when you make it relevant to your customer. And the only way you can make it relevant to your customer is if you did a good job in discovery. So the reason that I don't put a huge focus on objection handling, like we will rarely have sales calls where we're like, okay, objection handling, guys, we're going to talk about this objection and that objection. Objection handling does not work by itself, because a lot of times you've created those objections on your own by not doing the work in the beginning. So back to listening. When you listen, you actually learn. When you listen, you learn. When you listen, you can clarify. When you listen to understand and you don't listen to just take your turn to respond, and you can tell your customer how their situation is making them feel before you move on to your next question, is going to elevate who you are as a sales professional. That is my number one goal. When I'm on the phone with someone, we start here, right? They look at me as less than. And my goal before I get to quotes is I want to be way up here. And that it isn't a question of whether or not they're going to buy. It's a question of whether or not I have something they can afford. And that's my goal for you, for everybody on this call, is to get you to that point. And it does not happen in 1 week. I was practicing. I was mastering my craft. I allowed myself the time to learn. I allowed myself the space to get better. I did not freak out because I didn't make as much money as I wanted to my first week. You have to be here for the end goal, not for the day by day, the week by week. We have to take a step back and make sure that we're continuing to get better and progressing with every day, with every conversation, with everything that we do, everything we can control, right? Our intensity, our effort, our energy, our focus, our training, our implementation. How prepared are we? How much did we practice? Our intensity, our smiling and dialing, all the things you guys just said. You have to keep your focus on that. When you get the shit, feel it and let it go.